Hello YouTube, this is Insane Monster, and we are here for part 3 of What If Asta Was a Nine-Tailed Kitsune. Now then, with this being part of the Easter special, I do hope you enjoy, and remember to like and comment and such and all that. But before all that happens, hit it. Okay, now then, if you remember last time, Asta was temporarily able to access his full Kitsune form, though hasn't been able to attain that form again as of yet, which is quite annoying to him. As for the report the Wizard King got, some others did get a hold of it, and some explanations needed to be made. As uh, Marks, with his memory magic, did go out to the Golden Dawn to get recordings of the individual's memories and then head to the Aquadeers in order to get a proper drawing of it. Handing it over to the Wizard King, he was intrigued about the form that Asta apparently took, asking Yami to give a understanding of what Asta is, since he seems to be more familiar with this KitchenAid stuff than they are. After writing a report down and sending it to the Wizard King, he just relaxes at the hideout, as Noel has heard that Captain Yami ended up sending a report about what Asta is and got curious herself. As for Asta, he's been getting much more comfortable in his KitchenAid humanoid form. You know, having the fox ears and the nine tails showing. He's been getting a lot more comfortable around the Black Bull's hideout as that. As for everybody else, they've calmed down a bit from what could best be described as exposure therapy to the charm effect of the Kitsune's abilities. As for what's been going on at the hideout, since Asta didn't get really hurt, Noelle ended up getting her curiosity getting the best of her and asked Yami about this. Now, as Yami's telling her this, we kind of switch back and forth as the Wizard King Julius is telling uh, Demontio, the uh, magic parliament guy, the report that Yami sent, which has been somewhat curtailed to match up with what he understands that the people of the Clover Kingdom know so that they could better understand it. So Yami decided to fill her in. As Yami states that Asta, from his culture compared to theirs, in some cases, his kind can end up becoming something similar to what you see dryads as he recognized what he was talking about as and this is historically correct. Dryads are nature spirits that are connected to trees, so and are more or less considered a type of lesser god that watches over a land. As Yami states that Kitsune like Asta, or like what his full blood parent of a Kitsune would be, could end up being considered something similar if they end up getting a shrine as well as well, they occasionally get offerings like some food and drink, but that's about it. From what I understand, they give out things like good fortune, uh, bountiful harvest, and etc. But I don't know the particulars about it. As he kind of gets this, knowing some information about dryads to help understand it from Yami adjusting it for the Clover Kingdom's inhabitant, the people of the Clover Kingdom to understand. As Brutus comes in stating that is true, but yokai and such tend to have like sordid past. Not all yokai are just born that way. As Noelle is getting, well, she's feeling that she's getting far too used to the whole talking dog thing, which Brutus is uh, a black hound spirit. As Brutus continues stating, in many cases, or at least in the beginning, kitsune weren't just born from kitsune parents. The first kitsune were actually just normal foxes that lived far longer than what they should have, and ended up becoming a yokai because of it. As a matter of fact, there are other yokai that have a similar aspect to them. That if they live long enough, or if certain conditions are met, whether it be an animal or a human, they could become a yokai. As Noelle is finding this pretty intriguing, stating, so wait, basically, if conditions are met, just about anyone can become one? As he shook his head, stating, for instance, the legend of the Snow Woman. They are yokai that are born whenever a woman is, well, more or less, she dies from the freezing cold. Once that happens, they become a snow woman. As she never heard of any of these kinds of spirits, and is worried about what other kinds are out there. As Yami, hearing Noel stating that, they tells them that, oh yeah, that reminds me, something Asta stated whenever he was in the capital for the Magic Knights exam. Going to a flashback as Asta was asking him about the strong spiritual energy that's enveloped in the capital, how odd it feels. As Brutus states, yes, I felt that as well. It's entirely possible there's a gateway to a yokai realm within the capital. Yokai have a tendency to stay out of the eyes of the public. Tends to get messy if certain individuals find us, especially if they have very bad motive. As they kind of get this. As we switch over to Julius and Demontio, the head of the magic parliament just thinks for a moment, wondering what, or should he do something. A person who is basically half spirit, not to mention one that could be considered an incredibly powerful one, and it's also something out of the realm of magic, capable of wielding anti magic. All of this does make him essentially, well, he's not sure. He's never had to encounter something like this. Normally, he deals with just people, not someone whose physical body is debatably flesh and blood, yet not, you know, flesh and blood, yet at the same time not. So there is a bit of confusion on what he would classify Asta's state of being as. So once they were called to the capital to give a report on the dungeon, they went on ahead as they met up with Mimosa, Yuno, and Klaus. Yuno and Asta were smirking as Klaus was looking over him, being curious, asking, "So, you can just make the tails and ears disappear?" Causing Asta to get kind of nervous, stating, "Yeah, basically. This we have seen Noel, Asta, and Brutus." As Asta tries to say hi to Mimosa, she blushes and uh, just kind of walks away like in canon, but she does blush a bit more. Noel checks up on her, as Mimosa does state the same as in canon that Asta does seem pretty incredible, though something else seems to be drawing me towards him. Noel just tries to calm her down, stating that that's just part of his abilities. After a while, it kind of has less of an effect, so you should be fine. As he learns about the charm effect, it's not something that he does on purpose, just something that helps make people more at ease when they're around him. As they hurry up and go meet for the report to give, they see the Wizard King as he invites them to give their report. As Yuno shows the new spell, recognizing this as the Wind Spirit Sylph, and congratulates Yuno on getting this, and that it would have been bad if the Diamond Kingdom got a hold of it. As for Asta, he shows him the new uh, demon sword, the Demon Dweller sword, as Julius is barely able to hold it up, quickly realizing that his mana is being taken. As before anything else, Julius had to asking, "Now, Asta, I understand you took the form of a giant fox with 9 tails?" As his eyes just lit up with sparkles like usual, asking if Asta could show him. Asta remarks, "Sorry, um, I haven't been able to quite uh, do that again. Honestly, it's hard to figure out how it works." As Brutus steps in, surprising Julius that there's a talking dog, but also intriguing him. Brutus states the young master is, well, due to the fact he's half human, half kitsune, as well as being born with 9 tails, which, in and of itself, is extremely rare. He's going through a bit of a phase. At the time being, he's aging the same as any other human. However, due to that fact, it's possible that his powers may develop at a somewhat faster rate, though this is unknown as of now. Either way, I'm unaware on what is to come. As Julius can accept this explanation, and then state something weird, stating, "Oh, so basically he's going through the yokai puberty," causing them to just look at him, though they all think, "Yep, that's probably the most accurate way to put it, though not the most pleasant," as Asta is not liking the sound of calling it that. Julius states that there is someone else that wanted to meet him. as a man walked in holding a scale, as Noel Mimosa and Klaus recognized him, not saying a word, knowing how ruthless this guy can be. As he introduces himself as the head of the Magic Parliament, he states that he wants to examine Asta with his scales of judgment. Asta was nervous but agreed to it, and upon trying to evaluate him, something unusual happened. Instead of leaning towards light or dark, the scales literally flipped upside down perfectly. The little holsters for the little things representing light and dark, they were even, but the entire scale was floating upside down as if it was right side up, as he did not know what this meant. Dispelling the scale's adjustment, he states, "It appears that perhaps my own self-conscious is not sure about how to evaluate you due to the fact of what you are and whether or not you'd be a danger or an asset to this kingdom." As Asta asked if he could uh, give more details on what he means, he just states that his scales of justice are based on his own view on justice. So it does have a great effect on it when his self conscious comes into play. Not fully understanding Asta's, well, pretty much his existence, does somewhat make it tricky to judge him. So there is that. As he walks away, stating, "I cannot judge you at this moment, but one day we will see." As Asta states, that was kind of weird, right? But Brutus stating, "Very much so, young master." As they just sighed, Julius then remarks that they should come to the award ceremony for the Magic Knights that have advanced to the next rank in the Magic Knight ranking system. As they agree to witness it as well as attend the banquet, they do have a good time. Asta even takes a bowl, fill up with some meat and other goodies, putting it on the floor for Brutus, as he bows to Asta as thanks, making sure not to talk in front of all these strangers. As they eat, Dawes walks over to Noelle, going to try to dump water onto her head, but only ending up getting his wrist grabbed by Asta, asking what is he think he's doing, and then turning his hand to force the water to be splashed in his face. As he's angry by this, remarking that a lowly commoner to defy and do such a thing to a royal, as he then tries to use the sea serpent coil to attack Asta, only ending up with a attack that just gets sliced up by his anti-magic sword. As the Sand Mage states, a commoner, this lowly rat should learn his place, as he envelops Asta within the sand cube. As Asta suddenly appears right behind him, kicking him. This is due to an illusion he made, as he smirks, stating, "Oh, can you not tell the real thing from a fake? I thought magic knights were supposed to be better than that." causing some aggression from Nozel. Also can feel the pressure coming from him. As Asa stands his ground, he pulls out his other anti-magic sword, which is then stopped by Flagoleon, who chastises them, kind of just yells at them for acting in such a way, and that they're magic knights and that they should act like it. As Asta finds a lot of respect in this guy. He's a royal, yeah, but overall, compared to a number of royals and nobles that he's met, he's decent as well as seeming to be honorable. As Brutus also seems to accept him as an individual, only to have both Legoleon and Nozel flare up their magic, trying to stare down one another to see who would back off first. Of course, this is somewhat short lived, as an explosion happens all across the Clover Kingdom. As they try to get a look on what's happening, the Stone Mage uses his magic to see what's going on. And seeing that the entire place is under attack, as they're confused about how they got into the capital with the magic barrier protecting it. As Asta really isn't interested in this, covering himself in flames so that he can let loose his tails and ears, he jumps away through the window with the being an axe by Klaus. Where is he going? Asta just states, to the place with the most noise, as well as the most enemies. Probably where their leader is, right? As he jumps away with Brutus following behind. And for the Goleon running on the time that they have, knowing that they don't have much, with Leopold chasing after Asta, stating, hold on, I gotta talk to you. As like the Goleon asks them to cooperate with him for the time being, separating, similar as in canon. When Flagoleon is able to catch up with Asta a bit, Flagoleon asks Asta what is he doing. Asta just states, I'm doing what has to be done. Just talking and standing around isn't going to get anything done, especially when people are in danger now, right? As he accepts this without question. And Leopold is being dragged along this time, as well as Noel, with Leopold stating, ha, I knew you'd be interesting, so let's be rivals. As Asta's not sure how to remark about this, just stating that they should split up since there's a lot of these things just roaming around and they should divide and conquer. As it's agreed upon, Asta and Brutus go one way, while Flagoleon, Leopold, and Noel go the other. Asta cuts through the wraiths one after another. As for Brutus, he just used his hair control as a way to enhance his fur to make it like armor, and control his tail to cut the heads off of these things. With Asta remarking, these things are just rotting corpses. Honestly, this is just wrong. With Brutus stating, yes, young master, the stench of these things is foul. And the energy making them move, ugh, it reeks of malice from the user. Yokai have somewhat been known to smell malice, aggression, and such, even bloodlust. So, yeah, isn't that not that far of a stretch? As they see a little girl being harassed by a weird dude that looks like he's all wrapped up in dark bandages, as he spouts off about hating the Clover Kingdom and wanting to destroy it. As he reaches out for the girl, Asa blitzes in between them and slashes at him, causing him to jump back. As Rades remarks that, oh, so the magic nights finally come, but he only sees a weird dude with fox ears and 9 foxtails, thinking that this is something to do with his magic, as well as a black dog that is suddenly starting to get larger, putting himself in between the girl and Asta, acting like a shield to help. As Rades is just getting aggravated by this, he summons, I believe his name is Jimmy, and states that, don't worry, I'll make sure that your death is nice and painful. I'm gonna enjoy watching you writhe in pain. As the orbs just fly directly at Asta, he strikes at them as best as he can, taking them out as one after another, as well as using his foxfire to burn away the others that he couldn't hit with his sword. As Rades was getting furious about this, Asta took the opportunity to send a foxfire, literally in the shape of a fox, around Rades' blind side, to where it can sneak up on Jimmy and bite down over his head, beginning to burn him, giving Asta a clear shot to strike. With Jimmy out of the commission, this is where he calls Alfred. As lightning is being shot at Asta over and over, Asta just tells Brutus to protect the girl, as he obeys. This time, Asta uses hair manipulation of yokai that is very common with yokai that are more or less animal like, and uses it as a way to smack away the lightning. As Rades is getting angry at this, it isn't long until Asta turns the tips of his tails, hardening the hair, and using it as a spear to completely pierce through Alfred's torso, which basically he's just a corpse that's just a torso and a head. As he's getting just furious about this, he brings out his last wraith that he has, which was the body of a powerful defensive mage, putting up a shield around itself, and radiates. The attack begins as Asta uses his tails and swords to smack them away. Asta tries to stab the shield again, like he did with Alfred, but it didn't pierce through, as the shield is seeming to be a lot more tougher than he expected. On the sidelines, there are some strange eyes from the alleyways looking at what's going on. As this continues, Asta uses his illusions, creating a fake double that got pierced through from Rady's Wraith attack. Thinking that he won, he let his guard down, only for Asta to come up behind him and break through the barrier, hitting the Wraith, knocking all the mana in it straight out. As Rades falls down, he begins panicking, only to have lion laying paws grab hold of him and restrain him, with Legoleon stating, "Thank you very much for taking care of him." As Asta is fine with this, though out of nowheres, another wraith shows up through a spatial magic portal like the others. This one controlling mud, and one shows up underneath Legoleon as he was questioning Rades after seeing his grimoire. As Asta tried to stop this, he was too late. Getting angry at this, he tries to figure out where the spatial magic user is. While Leopold and Noel face the Mud Wraith and are able to beat it like in canon. As for Asta, he senses something and goes directly towards it, right underneath a pile of uh, wraiths that had the mana knocked out of him by Asta. With the appearance of these corpses seeming to rip off a fake mask, revealing that it was a spatial mage that got their forces in there. As for the other mages, things go similar as in canon, with all of them being sent away, as now they have a bunch of members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun showing up around them. It wasn't long until Legoleon dropped from a spatial portal, and Asta saw that his arm was gone. Leopold was in shock, not knowing how to react, as Noelle was doing her best to put pressure on the wound to stop the bleeding, as bits of Legoleon's grimoire began to just break off, as Asta is furious about this. Someone as respectable as Legoleon, who didn't see Asta as a commoner, respected him for what he could do, for what he's done. This really got him mad, as his claws from his fingernails popped out, but one of the mages firing their own magic, which was a fireball, Asta swiped at it, releasing wind claws, cutting through the magic, dispelling it, and slicing up the caster of said magic. This was the first time Asta used a wind element in attack, causing Brutus to think that he's getting stronger. Knowing this might get ugly, Brutus gathered up Leopold, putting him next to Flagoleon, and grabbed the girl that they were protecting. Asta began to change into his full nine-tailed kitsune form, stalking the members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, with Sally being interested in wanting to dissect Asta. Though as they begin a barrage of attacks, Asta uses his tails to just smack them away, protecting his friends. Telling Brutus to get them out of there, he complies, grabbing them all and just getting out of there. As for the eyes that were on him earlier, they just ran for it, knowing that it was going to get ugly. As he uses his fox fire to blast at all directions at the enemy, setting a good number of them on fire, and others were able to use their magic to defend enough to not take too much damage. With that, it was then that the other magic knights swooped in after using a combo magic spell to get them back. at a fast rate. As they saw the giant creature in front of them, the Eye of the Midnight Sun decided to bail, as Asta was furious that they got away when he swiped at them, only to be grabbing air. As a large black dog came in front Asta in his full transformed state, asking him to calm down, and that Mimosa is already healing Flagoleon, causing them, well, the Magic Knights that just got back, to be stunned about these two talking beasts. As Asta looks back, seeing that Flagoleon is okay, and Mimosa is healing him. Relaxed, he calms down and sits, waiting to change back. Though it seems as though he isn't changing back immediately like last time. As he's getting annoyed with this. First, he can't change when he wants to into this form, and now he can't change back into his humanoid form. So this is getting vexing. Later on, after some light questioning and getting Flagoleon to a proper hospital to get treatment, the Wizard King showed up with a prisoner, which he did the same thing as in canon, though Asta wasn't there. As he sees the giant box, Julius just had his eyes light up, being amazed by this, asking, "Oh, I didn't think Asta would be this large," as Julius doesn't really match up with even one of his paws in this state. And Asta's taken up pretty much the whole road at this point, with Asta apologizing that he's having trouble turning back, with Julius stating, so I guess was right. Asta asked him not to call it what he did before, as Julius was okay with that. As everything was settled and Julius asked that they devote themselves to protecting the kingdom even more now, they agreed. Though the captains did stay back to ask Julius what exactly Asta is, as he shares a report from Yami, being shocked that he's actually half spirit of some kind. As for the others, finding out that Charmy's there, Asta asks Noel to go back without him and Brutus, since going around in his current form would cause some problems among the people, and that he'll come back whenever he finds a way to uh, go back into a humanoid form. As he agrees with this, telling him to be careful. As Mimosa thanks uh, Asta for protecting Flagoleon and Leopold. Leopold still gives that mark on his forehead to himself, pointing towards Asta in this form, stating, "You are powerful, but I will surpass you, my rival," causing Asta the smirk, stating, "Bring it on." As Mimosa is now seems to be petting one of his tails. As Noel's thinking, yeah, that's kind of the normal reaction. Hers crazy soft. As now Charmy's on another one that Noel had to pry her off. After some time, Asta was able to return. Though before they decided to head back, Brutus wanted to talk about those individuals watching them, as Asta mentioned that he did recognize them, that they weren't human and they weren't hostiles, and that they should probably go say hello. Following the area of the alley that they sensed them, they could feel energy morphing in a way as a bright red gate appears in front of them. Through the states, figures, places like these with plenty of uh, emotional emotions that twist the energy around an area will sometimes be used to make yokai realm gate. This could be useful. Young lord, would you mind if we go in? Asta didn't mind at all. As they walked in, seeing all kinds of yokai, as Asta was excited, and a number of yokai noticed that there was a nine-tailed kitsune in this area, being shocked by this. As Asta was excited, three individuals actually walked up to him, asking who he was. As Asta gave them a pretty blunt answer, they were surprised a hybrid was in this place, let alone where they were. Asta was curious and asked how did they get here. They remarked that they left their home as a means of protecting themselves from humans that wanted to hunt them. Their existence is more or less non existent when it comes to the knowledge of them to the public of the Clover Kingdom. Using that, they hide pretty well. So, Asa just smirks at them, introducing himself proper, as well as the others, as they are curious about what the Ninetails do. They make a bet with them. If he can defeat all three of them, then they'll come along with Asta and Brutus to serve under him. Asta wasn't really sure about this, but Brutus pulled him aside, stating that this kind of thing is common with yokai. Yokai will have a tendency to follow stronger yokai as a means of being a more powerful force altogether. As he looks back at them, asking what exactly are they? Brutus, taking on his humanoid form, states that, well, it's actually quite easy. Pointing at the one with red skin and horns coming out of his forehead, Brutus states that is an Oni. Next, he points at the guy who looks like he has black angel wings coming out of his back, remarking that that guy is a Tengu. And lastly, pointing at an individual with cat ears and two cat tails coming from the same area that Asta and Brutus's tail pokes out from on their human forms, remarking that that's a Nekomata. Asta's interested in these guys and asks for their name. The Oni introduces himself as Mez. The Tengu introduces himself as Kaz. And the Nekomata introduces himself as Sur Suras. As Asta accepts their deal and pulls out the Demon Slayer and Demon Dweller sword, getting ready, as they head to a more open spot where there seems to be an audience. As the Tengu flies up, sending a slash of whirlwinds towards Asta with his fan. Asta, trying to mimic what he just did on accident earlier, pops out his claws from his nails and swipes, canceling wind blades with wind blades. As then the Oni comes in from behind with his giant metal spike club, only to be met with the Demon Slayer sword blocking him. As the Nakamata Shiras comes in trying to stab him with his claws, Asta avoids him and uses his tail to grab his leg, sending him flying into Kaz the Tengu, smacking him out of the sky. As Mez sees an opening, he tries to go for another attack. Although he thought he hit Asta, it was just an illusion, as Asta uses Fog Fire to hit Mez, sending him flying into the other two. As Asta then creates a large Fox Fireball right above the three, they begin to sweat pretty badly and state that they surrender. As they get up, they remark that that was a good fight. And the Oni states that, well, that was a lot of fun. So hey, are there go- I heard about the fight that you were in out in the capital. Are there going to be more battles like that? As Osla smirks, stating, probably. They attacked the capital pretty brazenly, though I don't think they're going to be done with just that. As the Mez just smirks, stating that I'm in. Though Brutus stepped in, stating, if you're going to follow the young master, you will need to take a more human form. And we will need to talk to someone else about this. As they agree to this, Mez turns into a human with reddish hair and golden eyes, removing the normal skin texture of his Oni form as well as the horns, since I would imagine yokai have plenty of tricks to hide themselves among humans. The Tengu only really needed to hide his wings, which was easy enough. As Kez was showing off that how easy it is for him, and as for his appearance, he has black hair with a set of red eyes. And next is Suras, who just needed to change up his cat ears and put away his twin cat tails. With him, he has white hair and deep blue eyes, though seeming a bit pale, as they then state that they will follow the young master wherever he goes. Since this kind of thing, from what I understand, tends to happen. As they left, they were excited to know where they'll be staying. As Asta turns into his halfway form, using his tails to lift them up and fly away back to the Black Bull's hideout. When they land and open the door, there is some confusion about who did Asta bring, and Yami did axe. As Asta stated that, well, it turns out we were right. There was a yokai gate in the capital, and we ended up making some friends. As Asta gestures that it was fine for them to sew them, revealing their yokai forms. As Yami was just thinking, what, what is this? Why is it? You know what? Never mind. Never mind. This is just fine. It's weird, but it is going to be interesting. As he just smirks. So remarks to the others that they will be needing to wear Black Bull robes as well as having uh, to stay in their human form most of the time when they're out on missions, which they agreed to nonetheless. Though the others needed a bit more explanation on how things with yokai work whenever uh, whenever a stronger yokai meets a group of, well, also strong yokai but not as strong as Asta. Finding it pretty interesting, Magna decides to skip the baptism, not wanting to find out what they can do firsthand. So he just accepts them, though does a bit of a physical portion of it to see how powerful they are, with Mez obviously winning the physical power portion. Afterwards, they just get their robes and are shown where to stay. Yami doesn't really mind, since all in all, he feels somewhat nostalgic having them there, reminding him of his homeland, which, if you remember, was the land of the rising sun, aka Japan. So, yeah. As for Asta, he was just exhausted. Once he got into his room, he just let his tails grow and lay on them as they covered the floor, with Brutus and Nero fitting in comfy on the tails as well, with Brutus stating that it seems that you've acquired a new ability, young master. For although the name he gave it was somewhat unpleasant, it seems as though you might be going through a quicker change than others. As he just thinks, stating, well, either way, I got stronger, even if it was a little bit. Though, still can't change it to the full transformation on my own, which is annoying. As Brutus just laughs, stating, it's fine. The more you fight, the more control of your powers I believe you will gain. I cannot wait to see when you are in full control, young master. As Asta smirks, putting out the fire from the candle in that room, telling them good night. And this will be ending this for this What If. Do hope you liked it and hope to see you next time. With that being said, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and see you guys later. Bye.